June 17, 2025, Telangana, India. Tejeshwar's morning began like any other. He got dressed, had breakfast, picked up his phone, and headed out for his daily land survey work. Nothing felt unusual. The house was calm, but as hours passed and daylight faded, a quiet worry began to spread inside his home. It was now 6 p.m., and Tejeshwar hadn't returned. At first, the family assumed he must be caught up with work, but by 9 p.m., he hadn't come back, and worse, his phone was switched off. Concern turned into alarm. Calls were made to friends, relatives, and colleagues, but there was no trace of him. Yet the most unsettling part wasn't just his disappearance, it was the silence of his new bride. Their wedding wasn't even a month old. But while the entire family panicked, Aishwarya sat quietly in her room, her eyes locked on her phone. No tears, no questions, no fear, just indifference. Every time her mother-in-law asked, "Did you hear anything from T?" she would nod faintly and return to scrolling. By sunrise, the next day, June 18th, his twin brother, Tavardhan, marched into Garwal police station, located in Jogalamba district of Telangana. His voice was steady but desperate. "My brother Tejeshwar is missing since yesterday morning. His phone is off. He's never done this before. I believe he's in trouble." Police began the routine procedures of a missing persons case. At first, they assumed he had gone somewhere without notice, maybe lost his phone signal, maybe he'd return on his own. But as time passed, that hope began to fade. Days crawled. By June 19th, June 20th. By the time June 22nd arrived, unease had turned into dread. Roughly 140 kilometers away, in the Nandol district of Andhra, laborers working near a canal noticed a foul smell wafting from the shrubs. What they found confirmed everyone's worst fears: an unrecognizable corpse, rotting and infested with insects. The face was beyond recognition, but the body bore the stains of blood, decay, and violent death. When Garwal police received the report of an unidentified body found near Shugali Meta Canal, they had a feeling. Could this be Tejeshwar? His family was summoned. His father, J. Ramulu, entered the post-mortem room unable to identify his son's face. But then, he noticed something on the wrist of the corpse was a tattoo that read "Armor, Mother." A tattoo Tejeshwar had gotten just months earlier. The truth shattered the family. Now the question wasn't just what happened, but the house once filled with wedding songs and garlands now echoed with tears, suspicion, and horror. What began as a love story had twisted into a murder mystery. Welcome to the case of Tejeshwar. A rain-damaged house, 2 women, and a secret in the Telangana-Andhra border lies Kurnool district, where in a crumbling house in Janam, 2 women lived: Aishwarya and her mother Sujata. A leaking roof, stained walls, and a past marked by loss. Sujata's husband had died years ago. Aishwarya's younger brother had passed away. The mother worked as a sweeper in an MBFC office, earning barely enough to survive. Aishwarya's education had ended after 10th grade. Sometimes, when Sujata fell ill, Aishwarya would go in her place to clean. They had no money, no luxuries, but Sujata had one dream: that her daughter would marry into a good, secure family. Meanwhile, in Garwal, a quiet town 60 kilometers away, lived Tejeshwar and his twin brother Tejeshwar. Tejeshwar was a land surveyor by profession and a dance teacher by passion. A humble man, he had worked hard to build a home for his family: father J. mother Shakuntala, sister Sushma, and brother Tev. At 32, his family was eager to see him married. That's when a proposal arrived from Janaki Nagar. Meetings were arranged. Tejeshwar and Aishwarya met. There was chemistry. In December 2024, they were engaged. The wedding was scheduled for February 2025, but financial constraints forced a delay. A new date was set, May 18th, 2025, but fate had other plans. The first red flag: a runaway bride. On May 13th, just 5 days before the wedding, Aishwarya vanished. No note, no call, no explanation. Her mother Sujata was frantic. The news reached Tejeshwar's family, leaving everyone stunned. The man who had ignored his family's concerns and fallen deeply for Aishwarya was now questioning everything. 3 days later, on May 16th, Aishwarya returned casually, unapologetically. When interrogated, she said she was stressed about dowry demands and her mother's financial burden. She claimed she needed to escape, but the explanation didn't feel right. Tejeshwar's family was now deeply skeptical. "She's already creating drama, what next?" they said. But Tejeshwar silenced them all. "I will marry only her." On May 18th, the wedding took place in a temple. The house rang with drums and joy, garlands, rituals, guests. Tejeshwar-Aishwarya stood under a floral canopy, exchanging vows. But no one knew they weren't beginning a marriage. They were stepping into a crime story. The cold wife, and a shocking discovery within days. Aishwarya's behavior began raising eyebrows. She remained distant from her husband and locked away in her room, glued to her phone. When questioned, she said she was talking to her mother or friends. Tejeshwar noticed the changes. He tried to confront her, but every discussion spiraled into arguments. His family hoped things would improve with time, but they didn't. Then, June 17th came. Tejeshwar vanished. The family panicked, but she remained silent, calm, unaffected, like nothing had happened. That's when suspicion began to grow. Initially, police treated the case as a standard missing person file, but after the body was found and the family highlighted Aishwarya's bizarre behavior, police took a closer look. They tracked her call records, and the truth exploded. Within 1 month of marriage, Aishwarya had called the same number over 2,000 times. Many conversations lasted over an hour. Meanwhile, she had only called her husband 150 times in total. The man on the other end? Tiramal Rao, a name that seemed innocent until the police learned who he was. A love triangle. With a twist of horror, Tiramal Rao was Sujata's co-worker there, NBFC branch manager, a 35-year-old married man. He had once been Sujata's secret lover. But when Aishwarya occasionally went to work in Sujata's place, Tiramal's attention shifted to the daughter. He started seducing Aishwarya. She got pulled into the same web her mother was once caught in. Eventually, both women were romantically involved with the same man without knowing at first. When the truth came out, no one stopped it. Sujata, disgusted, tried to marry Aishwarya off to break the triangle, but Tiramal had other plans. He didn't want to lose either woman, and so a dark plot was born. He gave Aishwarya a GPS tracker. Install it on Tejeshwar's bike, he said. She obeyed. Tiramal then hired 3 contract killers, Nagesh, Parshuram, and Raju, for $2,500. They agreed to end Tejeshwar's life. On June 17th, following the GPS trail, the killers approached Tejeshwar under the pretense of showing him land for survey. They coaxed him into their vehicle and drove him to a remote stretch near There, they butchered him with sharp weapons. His body was dumped near the Shugali Meta Canal, 140 kilometers away. His clothes, phone, and bag were thrown into a river to erase evidence. But truth has a habit of rising. The fall of the monsters. As the police pieced the story together, the killers were caught at a checkpoint. Tiramal was arrested at Hyderabad airport, trying to flee. Aishwarya and Sujata were taken into custody. The twisted love triangle, the betrayal, the murder for hire all laid bare. Final thoughts from an innocent engagement to a grave in the jungle. The story of Tejeshwar is one of blind love, deception, and a grotesque betrayal involving not just one heart but an entire family. A house of dreams turned into a house of death. Sometimes the monster isn't a stranger. Sometimes it sleeps right beside you.